Estate. We are live every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if it's available to you, please jump on live. You can ask your questions and we can answer them. Today, we've got the distinct pleasure to having Larry Martin on the show again. He's been on with us twice previously, and each time we keep getting more and more great insights out of him. He's an old timer, and anytime I get an old timer in front of me, I use that to my advantage because I really just want to pick his brain and learn everything that he's built up over the years. There's no substitution for experience. And so I'm really excited to have him on again, where we can do a little bit deep dive into what he's been up to lately and bring all that value for you guys to hear before Christmas. All right. Without any further ado, let me bring Larry on.
Gentlemen.
Hey, how are you?
Good. So nice to see both of you again.
Yeah. Welcome back.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it. So y'all ready for the holidays?
My wife is not, and she's stressing me out because she's not.
That's a trick question. Well, part of why I look like what I do is the fear that I developed just before Christmas. So
that's why I like. I mean, Thanksgiving is my favorite holiday because we like to cook, right? So it's just like, all right, Aunt Luba, what do you need us to bring? We bring it. There's no presents involved or anything like that, and you just show up and have a good time, and the whole thing with, God, the consumerism around Christmas just drives me absolutely nuts. And I'm a typical guy. I hate to shop. I'll do anything I can to avoid shopping. Therefore, this shirt and these pants and clothes, and that sort of thing, all came from Costco, and they were probably bought 6 years ago.
Yeah.
So
nice.
Yeah, if it can't come to my door by Amazon, I probably won't buy it.
So, Mark, what do you want to start with?
I think it's dealer's choice, right? I know Larry's into modular right now, so I'm happy to jump right into it. I agree. I think it's going to be the future of home building. So anything that we can do to get prepared to ride that wave and not be left behind, I think it's really valuable. Oh, we just lost Larry though. Larry, are you still with us? All right, Matt. He's probably gonna have to come back in.
All right. Well, while we're waiting on that, Mark, what have you been looking at any opportunities over the past couple of weeks?
Over the past couple of weeks, it's really been not slim pickings. I think things typically get real quiet around the holidays. I tell investors that can be a good opportunity to find some deals, but at the same time, there's just lack of inventory. So I do have a seller, and he wants to sell now. I'm kind of telling him the same thing. He's kind of pushing hey, let's get this thing listed. And I'm telling him you might want to just hold off a little bit. Let's, figure out, is there anything we can do to add some value? And maybe in the next month or so, get it ready for a spring listing. What I tell people is that, typically buyers are coming back, at least in my marketplace, mid-spring, right? Or mid-February, early spring, real early spring. We're still getting snow. It still kind of feels like winter, but the sellers really don't come back until May, June. And so we've got this pent up demand of buyers that come to the market right about mid-February, and anybody that has the foresight to be ready and they can list mid-February to mid-March, they typically get an even bigger premium than they would in the springtime market in a May, June market. So percentage-wise, I usually tell people, if you're buying right now, today, you're probably about a 20% discount on existing stock than if you're buying in mid-February, and then you're paying the biggest premium mid-February to mid-May, and then that kind of goes down a little bit as inventory picks up as we get towards the end of the season. So this is your best buying opportunity in my opinion.
Yeah, I remember when I was in commercial real estate sales, it was kind of counterintuitive to sellers, right? Oh, there you are, Larry.
Yeah, sorry about that. Somebody,
No
problem.
worries.
I'm inundated with phone calls. Don't know quite how to use your app, but I'll learn before the next time I'm on with you guys. So I accidentally cut myself off. So
Do you
what
have
have
an
I missed?
iPhone? Oh,
I
you didn't
do
miss
have an
much.
iPhone. Pretty much my
So,
entire business is on my iPhone.
right. So on the iPhone, if you swipe down on the top, it'll
Yeah,
bring up this little command center. You'll have different, I don't even know what they're called. Work. For me, I made one for Zoom. So
yeah,
when I set it on Zoom, it's like a do not disturb. So basically, nobody can text me, nobody can call me, and
sure,
it lets me do these things. So I use that a lot. So if I'm on something like this, I go in there, I just click to Zoom. It's super easy. It translates to all my devices. So my iPads, my computers, nothing will bother me while I'm doing
sure.
this. It's a little,
Good to know.
yeah,
Good to know.
productivity hack.
You bet.
Now we were just rapping about the market. I've got a seller that wanted to get something listed ASAP, and I kind of told him that we can certainly get it listed right now if you want, but in my opinion, it's the best time to be a buyer right now, especially before a
Sure.
holiday where people are,
Yeah.
they're getting their last minute gifts. They're not thinking about buying real estate. So from a seller's perspective, worst time to list is around holidays, and the worst time to list is probably Christmas and New Year's, in my opinion.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. During this market, particularly just because of the bridge loan thing, there's kind of a swap going on. And the people like Goosens are talking about how if this is the time, no matter what the cost of a bridge loan is to start it now, because the variable rate at some point in time soon, it will be down and everything, your deal will be pretty equitable. But on the other side, if you're on the tail end of it, you got to get rid of your property. So I think here for the next 6 or 8 months, you're going to see some really great opportunities. We're beginning to see a lot of money available to buyers through government enhancements. That some tax benefits are going to come to single family owners. And a bunch of other incentives, even local incentives, are there would like to get single family home buyers in. I don't see that as going to be a possibility though in the near future. Seems like it's going to be 2 or 3 years off before single family owners can get back in the market. And for that reason, I don't think I would sell anything if you're a single family owner.
Yeah.
If necessary, turn it into an income property, but hang on to it.
Mm-hmm.
So speaking of, you kind of alluded to a little bit of like interest rates and the Fed and that sort of thing. Before we kind of dive deeper into modular, this is kind of like, pressing news. There's a lot of people like, trying to read the tea leaves with what Jerome Powell was saying at the last Fed press release. What's your take on what he said and how it's going to impact the markets in the future as it pertains to like commercial real estate and everything else?
Well, pretty much what I'm seeing right now is the market's flat. It's going to stay flat. People that have bridge loans are in trouble, certainly. I don't see it changing much in the way of home ownership. In fact, most of the projects that I'm working on now are either single family for rental or they're multifamily ground up, Class A ground up. With either in opportunity zones or that come with benefits like underwriting or loan guarantees from people like Department of Energy, those kinds of things. A lot of the local municipalities are speeding up the entitlement process because they're trying to get jobs housed in their markets, and there's just such a shortage of housing. And technically, the difference between modular and stick built, there's really no difference. There are new materials that are being incorporated in factories that you just can't do out on site built properties. But the cost is the same. It's the time frame to market is the difference. We can do things 40 to 60% less time than stick built, and so we're working on a single family homeowner who can qualify to buy a modular house that they can put their deposit down and move in 120 days into a brand new house.
Wow.
And the quality is the same or better than stick built. The materials we're using now, we're replacing wood with steel. So now the usable life of a single family house is 100 years instead of 40 years. All of ours are off the grid, so you're saving yourself in my neighborhood. That's almost $200 a month in savings on a utility bill. So it doesn't really cost that much more per square foot. A lot of our houses are they have sensors, 300 sensors, small RFD sensors that feed a computer that controls all of the climate, and our windows are gas filled, so they keep heat in the winter and heat out in the summer. And just those shifts alone make living so much more comfortable. Square footages are dropping. Multi-use of square footages pull out components that when you pull it out creates a small workspace behind it and storage. So we're seeing 30% decrease in usable square footage, a lot of open space, and just generally an easier way to live.
What is it like to keep these things totally off the grid? Like, is it internalized with the unit, or does there have to be like a separate parcel somewhere that's got like a solar farm that's like feeding a community?
Well, most the solar panels are all on top of everybody's roof, and it's either one of the two different ways. You can either have a community power system, a lot like what it is that Tesla is doing in Australia and some of the other places around the world, or it can be battery storage. My house will be battery storage, and with solar panels on the roof, and that will give me 10 days of no sunlight power. And then it's just a matter of maintaining it. These systems actually create enough power that the utility district really has to buy back the extra power. So, we're looking at $10, $15 a month utility bills instead of $200 a month.
Does that only work in certain geographic locations?
Well,
I'd imagine
certainly,
it's going to be tough.
the further north you go, the less sunlight you have, but, it's additional cost. So Montana looks completely different than Arizona, but it is possible. And that's partly where if we can build a neighborhood of single family houses and take one lot and turn it into a battery storage for the entire community, then it becomes a lot more manageable per household. So
yeah,
lot of brand new technology that's just working on a brand new one here 2 or 3 days ago. Had met a woman from India who has an AI engineered management app that instead of having to wait 2 weeks in a factory to figure out what your productivity is, it will give it to you within seconds, whatever that configuration is. And anybody online can see it. So management all of a sudden becomes much more reactive than it's ever been in the past. So that contingency that you have to keep on board, always a fund, just in case fund, that gets smaller and less likely to be used. So all of those are brand new to the industry, but for the most part, you're still swinging a hammer, or gluing down a floor. It's not any different. We're starting with all the people crossing the border. That's going to be a labor force that needs jobs that will actually do the work in a factory. We're implementing a management program that trains these people. We're already started in Mexico in a factory. We're going to train them to come up and actually run the factories and train those folks that need the training in exchange for discounted housing, but they have to sign a contract and stay with us for 5 to 8 years. And they can move up in that process from general labor to a rigging contractor if they like. We can, so from start to finish, from concept to keys, we can take an order and put somebody in a house in 120 days. That's the goal anyway.
Yeah. In our marketplace, the utility companies they've got a monopoly, and you can't even, if you don't consume any energy at all, there's still a base charge of like $90.
Yeah. Well,
do you guys have those?
People are
have
going
this.
to move from those locales, and they're going to go to the places where that they can live as cheaply as possible or as least expensive as possible and still have a good quality of life. And I think municipalities that don't start becoming efficient in the ways that they're literally inhibiting the production of housing, if they don't start getting on board, they're going to start losing their tax base, or they're going to end up with a population that can't pay the taxes.
Yeah.
So, Larry, let me ask you this. In the green room, we were talking about 60,000 jobs in an area or areas that have no housing
Yeah,
lined
right,
up for them. Tell us
right.
about those markets. Is this in one market or is this in a few markets that you've kind of like spotted this opportunity?
Well, it's showing up in Texas, in northern Nevada, east of Reno. If you were to go to Fernley, which is kind of a podunk town nobody knows about, it's 8 miles from Tesla, Panasonic, and a number of Google, Apple, a whole bunch of people. The biggest industrial park in the world, and they need just that park alone needs 45,000 jobs. Or has 45,000 jobs and literally no housing. I think my group is going to provide about 2,000 houses and apartment units maybe in the next 18 months. We're building a factory there to do single family or to build modular, both apartments and houses. And it's going to take several years to catch up. But there are plenty of markets that are ready. Texas has some of the biggest down on along around Corpus Christi. There are some of the big, huge industrial complexes. SpaceX is a giant employer, and they can't get the housing. They can't get it quick enough. And the local municipalities are basically inhibiting any ability to get it done any sooner. So it's really about unelected power and control, and I think that needs to change, and I think we're all beginning to see that emerge, and just in across the country. So it's all hand in hand. The restrictions that cause us to be forced into the circumstances that we're all living under right now have to change.
Mm-hmm. So you had mentioned opportunity zones either before we started recording or a little bit ago. How do opportunity zones how have they played a role in the projects you're working on? Have you attracted opportunity zone fund capital for some of these opportunities, or tell us about that?
Sure. All of that started in the last day of their first day of 2018, I think. So, a lot of the benefits have eroded. They're gone, they're past, but there's still a little bit of time left. And so any business that locates in an opportunity zone virtually has tax credits and an opportunity for no taxes if they'll hang on to that business for 10 years before they actually sell it or do something else with it. The income that comes from it in our opportunity zones in Nevada and some of the other few states around, there is no income tax on that. So the tax benefit is it begins to look like as much as 35% margin in businesses. In real estate, it's priceless. So if you build an apartment community and hang on to it for 10 years, and one day after 10 years you sell it for 2 or 3 times what it cost you to build, not counting all the income you've got off of it that's pretty much tax-free in Nevada, there is no taxes on it. So it only makes sense for businesses, no matter where they are, to locate in opportunity zones. We're hopeful that those 1031s are beginning to disappear. They're beginning to get so specific about what they have to be that they're you're almost unable to create a 1031. And I think that's the intention of the IRS, and certainly some sectors of our government. This is one of the last opportunities. I hope that changes around. Our next election will certainly tell that.
Yeah.
So what are you working on currently?
Right now, we're just finishing up. I was on a phone call today with a group in Texas. We have 1,250 units. We're apartment units that we're getting ready to start building next year, probably second, third quarter of next year. So the one thing we can't do and don't know how to do is be a general partner sponsor that actually operates the business and understands how to lease it up, and then really to determine determine what its value is at the end, at the time when it's time to sell it. So we're looking for somebody to kind of join up with us and take on those 1,200 units, and it looks like about another 4,000 units that are in the pipeline right now. So we're doing that. We have picked up two projects in Costa Rica. It looks like a third one is coming on the Pacific coast for several luxury resorts, pretty close to San Jose Airport there. And so that's we're right on the verge. We were in conversations today looking for another general partner to take those on. I've got several build-to-suit factories that I'm working on right now with Devele, DVELE.com. Take a look at them. That's the house builder that we want to team up with. Got several conversations with them to try to create the team to get that done. So, and we're looking pretty closely at the market and what it looks like. So I've been in it enough I feel like I can look at the market 4 or 5 years out and get a pretty good sense of where it's going to go, at least a 60%. And I think we've got a little bit of tough times coming here for a while, but there's always something to do, and technology is changing the marketplace too for real estate. Construction is coming from 150-year-old technology. It's getting updated right now, the last 4 or 5 years by some really savvy, young, intuitive developer builders who are inventing the factories and the processes to push housing and any kind of construction out the door quicker. So those are the things that I'm working on and the stuff that I'm really focused on.
It's really
So
cool.
let's talk about take one of your prospective deals you're working on, this 1,200 unit deal. Tell us about what the capital stack looks like in terms of, how much equity, how much debt, that is mechanically put together from a financing standpoint.
Sure. Well, the one that I'm most familiar with right now is 440 units. It's located in Fallon, Nevada, which is right down the road from where the new Top Gun school is. They're short 8,000. They have 8,000 employees coming in with their families, and so they're short 8,000 homes. So we're building 440 units, but I'm going to say 20 units per acre density, so it's a 2-story walk-up. Their average, I think we have 3 floor plans, and we haven't really nailed that down yet either, whether it's going to be modular or stick-built, just because of the timing. It looks like stick-built. The smallest units will be 500 square feet, 1 bedroom, and the largest units will be a 3-bedroom at about 950 square feet. The cost of the land and the entitlements is about $20 million. And the cost for construction is looking like it's going to be another $50 million. The valuation at the end of all of that, when it's fully leased up, maybe 24 months from now, is about $80 million by today's market indications. And we don't know what's going to happen with inflation. Inflation is going to really create new values and different cap rates than we've ever seen. So that's kind of what that looks like. We have 4 projects like that. So you can take those numbers and run them all the way through. The total valuation at the end is somewhere between $350 and $400 million. And the total cost to build them all is going to be probably around 240, 250 million to build them. And time frame for that, all of them, probably looking at 2 years, 2.5 years before they're all completely built. If we do modular, we shorten that up by 40%. So that's what we're working on right now. The built to suit, I've got factories that they're 400,000 square feet. It's a $50 million real estate proposition and probably $100 million in operating capital. So it's probably a capital stack, 5 different tranches of money. So, and there's opportunities for ownership of the building, 10-year triple net lease guaranteed by the occupant. And then revolving credit and investment in the company itself. So we have a fund of funds customizable fund of funds we'll be launching first quarter of next year to be able to finance all of that and anybody else's projects too. We're really about modular right now, and that is my total focus right now. There's no way that we're going to catch up with the demand for housing, and not in my lifetime anyway. So, and I'm planning to live another 25 years. So, and I think you guys might find it difficult for you guys to outlive it too. So your children are actually going to be facing the prospect of expensive housing or unavailable housing unless we can all jump on it and get it done quickly.
Yeah.
So that's my total focus is that right now. And having fun, that's the other stuff.
So how do you spend your day? What does your day look like as far as what you're investing your time in with so many projects going on?
Yeah, I have I start at 4:00 in the morning, and I have some communication with my partner that she's off in another city and doing things and so we try to touch bases in the morning for a half an hour, 45 minutes. But then it's solid. I'm trying to keep up with LinkedIn. My email has me totally overrun right now. And then it's typically phone calls. Yesterday I had 6 conference calls with potential deals and just trying to get the mechanics in order so that everybody understands what they need to do. And then I probably don't quit until 6, 7 o'clock at night and get an hour or 2 of watching movies and hit the rack, go to bed. So that's my cycle, and it's pretty much 7 days a week. You can't do that unless you really love your work. I love my work. I don't think I can ever quit it. I think I've told you all before, I'm going to die with a deal under my feet. So how about you guys? What are you guys up to? Tell me about what you're doing. That's the other thing I do is I'm traveling around trying to meet up with people like yourselves and getting an update on the market. Because, the more eyes that you can see through, the better vision you're going to have, at least the long distance vision, much more acuity too. I'm really impressed by guys like yourselves. You're out there beating the bushes as hard as you are and seeing stuff that I haven't seen for many years. It's always refreshing. So tell me what you guys are up to, if you don't mind. Is this going to be a waste of your time on this podcast?
No, not at all. Go ahead, man.
No. Yeah. So what I've been seeing out there is, yes, we've gotten, kind of like a little bit of reprieve from interest rates dropping a little bit in the wake of the Fed sentiment, and the market's trying to read the tea leaves there. But interest rates are still higher than they were, let's say, 12, 24 months ago. And what I've been seeing is crazy creativity out there. And the first time in my 17 years of doing this, like buyers and sellers of commercial property and commercial deals actually working in collaboration with each other to get each other what they want. All right. So there's a deal that I just put together. God willing, it'll close in first quarter next year. Some properties that I've owned for a long time, small multifamily properties, and my price, I put it with a broker off market, and because he had a property right down the street from there that he put up for sale, and I was like, hey, if you got any buyers that are interested in, instead of 10 units buying 17 units. I have something that I'm not really interested in putting on the market, but take them through if they're qualified and stuff like that. So my price was 1.8 million, and I got a bunch of offers. There was one, the highest and best offer was 1.7 million contingent upon financing, and I was like, listen, my price is 1.8. This is my objective and that sort of thing. So we started talking about each other's goals. He's like, well, listen, I could go up to 1.8 if interest rates were, X%. Right. And so I was like, all right, well, how about this? You pay me 1.8 and I'll take back a second mortgage for $100,000 interest free, payment free for 5 years with a balloon at the end of 5 years. And so, he was like, yeah, I can do that. That blends the interest rate down in terms of my cost of capital. So, we hammered a deal at that. So I'm seeing that happen a lot in this market. And I think that a lot of people kind of always look at things in today's dollars, and today's interest rates. So like, oh my God, how can I make the numbers work at, 7.5%, 8%? And I think it's really short-sighted that if you have an actual opportunity that's in a great location that has, long-term demand, high barrier of entry, then, this, short-term interest rates really are to me, a non-issue. It's like, let's draw a box around that problem and see how we can creatively think collaboratively to make something happen. I've been seeing that a lot in the marketplace recently. And a lot of buyers are just on the sidelines waiting for interest rates to drop. I think what they're going to end up doing is I think rates are going to be higher for longer. This whole thing with, people for some reason, Jerome Powell said he's going to drop rates, 3 times next year. It's like, when did he say that?
Yeah.
And also they're always comments are moderated, right? Well, if inflation, stays above, we're going to keep higher for longer. So I think they were to be in higher for longer in order to get back to more normalized inflation. So when those interest rates drop, there's going to be a ton of capital that's going to be flooding back in the market across the entire real estate asset spectrum. And so these deals that you could get right now at a really great basis are going to be gone. And you're going to have that missed opportunity. So we're actively out there, looking at opportunities, making offers, trying to make things work. So just about shots on goal. You got to stay active no matter what the market cycle you're in, is.
Sure. I'm seeing a lot of foreign money coming in that wants to get into the market at any cost because they're afraid that their capital pool is going to get smaller just out of inflation. And just as a reminder, I did deals when I first started in the business back in the early 70s. I did deals at some of them 26%. And so, and what's been the average interest rate that I've had to deal with for at least 30 years was 7-8%. 9% wasn't unusual. So I think a lot of people are spoiled by this low interest rate thing. We'll figure out how to make a deal profitable. You just have to put your thinking cap on, and you got to make deals with people that want to make deals. So I think if we can all just take a look at what was going on back in the mid 90s, I think you're gonna see what it is, what the escape route, the exit route is for everything that's ongoing now. How about you, Mark? What are you up to? I'm watching you guys a lot. I've watched you quite a bit, Mark, on Raise Masters. So
Yeah.
so how are things going for you? In fact, I was going to call you up and chat with you about some of the deals that you're working on right now.
Yeah, no, things are going great. I think your piece of advice that you've got to have somebody that wants to do a deal, that's the key, right? So a lot of people will go around and try to force deals, but we just have a lot of unmotivated people. As an investor myself, I get a lot of people that come up to me and will say, hey, I want to buy, 123 ABC Street from you. I'm like, and my first thing is like, yep, everything's for sale except for my wife and kids. So, go ahead and then they, and I just tell them, I'm like, I'm not motivated. I'm obviously, you're approaching me. So what do you want? Okay, well, here's my offer. I'm like, yeah, it's not going anywhere. You have to have somebody that wants to do a deal, right? If you don't have somebody that wants to do a deal, there is no deal. So I think a lot of investors get stuck in that, they're analyzing all these properties and they're just trying to force deals like, oh, I want this or I want that. And if I buy this and, it's something that I want it because of the location. I want it because of this. I want it because of that, but I can only pay this. Well, somebody owns that and they might not want to sell it for that. So, but if you spent your effort, instead of just saying, hey, I want this property, or I want that property, and you spent all of your effort saying, I want to find people that want to do deals, then you're going to be successful. I mean, that's where success is. It's finding the right people that actually want to transact a deal. If you can find that person, you're going to end up both getting a good deal, because, you want to transact, they want to transact, and it's going to end up being equitable for both parties.
Sure. Yeah, we will quickly admit what we can do and can't do, and we like to stay in our lane in any way that we can. I'm willing to give up a little piece of a deal in order to get somebody on board, so that I can work with them at least long enough that we can really find the efficiencies in our relationship and continue on multiple deals. So, and I'm not seeing a lot of that. I'm seeing a little bit more of it in some of the networks like Raise Masters and a couple of others around that I participate in. Certainly in the modular world, we're finding a lot of people that don't know enough to scale their businesses up are now willing and to look at possibilities. So pride is becoming less the factor in the demise of a deal, and humility is beginning to be one of the fruits of making deals. So I'm really impressed by it. I think I've been through a bunch of cycles, and this is no different. We're going to recover from it. And as you guys start looking more like me, it'll be easier to make the deals.
Yeah. Yeah. But I would say, correct me if I'm wrong, but, your perspective is probably because you have those multiple cycles under your belt, and you can see that. I think a lot of people that got started, after '08, they don't know any of that. And then for them, it's just, they don't understand that there's another way that they could be doing business, right? It's a relationship game. And that's what I feel that most investors that are newer, they don't get that. It's all them, 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 them. It's what can they get? How can they squeeze everybody else? They're not looking for relationships. And then when you find somebody that's a little bit older, more established, that has been through the cycles, it's more about how can we work together to make this not only a good transaction, but a future relationship that can result in more transactions with even more people, kind of like combining networks and opening those networks up together.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Great perspective. Love that perspective. Yeah. All the guys that taught me my business have been dead for 50 years. Seriously. and all of the things that I learned from them, only a few people know what those little tricks are. If you could get a buyer to come to your office or a seller to come to your office, that was an indication that they really were a seller. Little tricks like that just have been lost. So I learned something every day, and can't say that that's ever changed my entire career. So I'm sure appreciative of relationships with folks like yourself, and I'm hopeful that that door will stay open.
Absolutely.
Sometimes the age difference creates an animosity or a block of openness, and that's, I think, is the loss. I'm learning from people that are older than me. So that, great things.
Yeah, I feel like the younger people think that, like, oh, we know technology better, we know computers better, we're more savvy. But at the end of the day, there's no substitution for wisdom.
Yeah.
So I think, that's that younger tech savvy entrepreneur versus your older, more established, wise investor entrepreneur. The wise person is going to win every single time, because they're going to have seen a lot more, and they're going to be able to avoid problems that younger person is probably just going to charge into straight away, and then end up suffering a loss. So I
Sure.
really respect my elders, and I like to get as much of that ancient wisdom as I can, because I know they have a perspective that I will not have for 20, 30 years,
Sure.
and then when I finally have it, then having these younger kids come to me, I can already see it, at my age, and then mentoring people that are, say, 10 to maybe 20 years younger than me. it's really hard to impart the wisdom that you have from that 20
Yeah.
years.
Mhm.
It's almost impossible. You could tell them something and you could just see it. It's not registering with them. And you're just like,
Sure.
okay, you're going to learn the hard way, but that's okay.
Sure. Yeah. Failure is a great teacher.
Yeah.
I'm proof and evidence of that actually. So, you know, but
Yeah.
but it's also reciprocal too. I'm finding a lot of incredibly intelligent, aware, they might not have the experience, but they have the ability to think through a problem and actually come up with a solution that is pretty practical and having no experience. But experience is the best teacher. Sometimes you gotta beat yourself against the wall until you finally realize you do bleed.
Yeah.
So
Have
Yeah, and
you,
I,
oh, go ahead, Matt.
yeah, so yeah, I've been thinking about wisdom lately and how wisdom is acquired. And looking back on the younger version of myself, my dad was came from the school of hard knocks, so he was a very wise person. I look back on like all the things he told me that just didn't register with me when I was younger, my 22 to 25-year-old self. And then it took me like getting slapped around a lot by taking the other road that I thought was right at the time and not listening to the wise advice in order for me to come full circle and be like, yeah, that's what he meant by when he was saying that.
sure.
All right. So I think that, that sort of like, knowledge without mileage is BS. And I think that,
Yeah. Wow.
young people have to, they have to not listen to the wisdom of their elders sometimes to understand and have the appreciation of that. And I mean, I remember back a few years ago, I was prospecting for some investment deals. I sent some, love letters around town for assets I wanted to buy. And this young man by the name of Nelson Leanhoutz, he's not a young man, but very wise individual who, built home properties with his brother Norman into, multi-billion-dollar company, starting with small multifamily properties. And so he took a meeting with me and I told him everything I was up to and I was looking for his advice and that sort of thing. And he's like, you know what? I don't have any advice to give you. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, but it's so hard. And he's like, it's like, that's
Yeah.
just the way, that's just the way it is. Like, if you're not learning and, going through these painful growth things, if you're not experiencing pain, you're not growing. And if you're not growing, you're dying.
Yep.
So, I kind of take it, yes, I have sleepless nights. I do face, doubt and uncertainty, and we have to make decisions. But this entrepreneurial journey is a spiritual one. And I just have to take comfort in that.
Sure. Yeah. When you fall down, get up.
Mm-hmm.
Don't stop getting up. Keep getting up. So many people I see are just so overwhelmed by their own self-assessment and thought that they can't do it. They remind me of people in a fetal position in the middle of a freeway. As much as they think they're safe, they're going to get killed. So you can't stop. You got to keep going. It just can't. Doesn't matter. I have a son right now that's going through, my oldest son is going through probably a bigger challenge than I've ever faced in my life. And the strength that he has to get that done comes from the examples that folks that he knows older than him that have encouraged him to just stay with it. It's something you have to do. There's no choices about doing it. You have to do it. So just keep on it, keep pushing on the wall till it falls down.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's hard because there's no guidebooks, right? In what we do.
Yep.
That's why you should definitely write a book, Larry. I
Yeah.
want a copy.
Well, anybody can get a hold of me if they want to talk to me about stuff. I'm wide open for that. I'm working with several folks right now. Hopefully they can be successful. And like I say, every time I'm in conversation with somebody, it doesn't matter what their experiences are, their age, I learn something. So,
Yeah.
you know, there's always a piece of gold laying out in front of you. It might look like a rock, but
Mhm.
pick it up and look at it a little closer. You might find some value in it. So,
Yeah.
so
That's how I treat all my relationships as well. And I
yeah,
think that's what keeps you happy about what you do, right? You know, if you
yeah,
can interact with anybody and learn something, then
yeah,
you've got the right attitude. I've had a few people in my life where for whatever reason, just things are never enough for them. You know, it doesn't matter where they're at. It doesn't matter what they've accomplished. They're always kind of like down and out. And I don't, I don't know how to help somebody that's like that.
yeah.
And I really don't know why that happens to people, but happy to hear your guys' take on if you've dealt with anybody like that and what you would recommend for dealing with those type of people.
Well, you know, I hit bottom pretty hard a couple of times,
Mhm.
and you don't know where the bottom is until you hit it. And both my sons have hit the bottom pretty hard, and they've managed to come back. And really, it's really just to get again. It's just really about getting up. Just get up when you fall down. Get up again. And
Mhm.
eventually, you know, eventually you'll run across a pathway, a least resistant pathway that'll at least lead you out of whatever demise you think you're in the moment. But and possibility is the word that I live on. It's There's always a possibility. You know, you could be an optimist and get shot in the foot quite often, and a pragmatist and miss a lot. But if you're always looking for possibility, you eventually will kind of find a door to a brighter time or existence. So
Yeah.
no matter what that is, you know.
Yeah. I just feel like
Yeah.
some people get too caught up on like the financial side of things. And if,
Sure.
but I try to tell them and, sometimes they won't want to hear it from me. It's like, it's not about the money. The money is not what makes you happy. That's not
Exactly.
where happiness comes from. But
Yeah.
they're like, oh, that's easy for you to say, It's like, well,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
Well,
get it.
Yeah. Money to me is it is the product of a job well done, and
Mhm.
it doesn't deserve the focus. Every time I've focused on money, it disappeared from me. It ran away quicker than I could catch up to it. So if I ignore it, it will show up and climb into my pocket on its own.
hmm
So
Yeah, totally true. Yeah, I mean, to piggyback on what Mark was asking about, I think you develop this over time in terms of just like developing an awareness of the nuances of people and picking up pretty quick in terms of, all right, is this person have a scarcity mindset or an abundance mindset? And it's very difficult. I used to be somebody that was like thought everything was zero sum, and I had a scarcity mindset, and it took me getting beat down enough and humble enough to realize that, all right, this is no longer working, and I have to think about the world in a different way. um, well, we got about less than 15 minutes left. I did want to touch on, Larry, what is, everybody has struggles in their business right now. So like what are you struggling with right now?
well, I'm pretty blessed right now. The struggles, maybe they don't really have to do with business. I have a lot of empathy for my oldest son and his trials right now. My best friend's husband died 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, and her struggles to come back to reality are I'm concerned about those. I drive from just less than 200 yards from my front door. There are people homeless dying on the Truckee River, and that
hmm
number is going up every year. And so I think, and I'm concerned about my biggest concerns and troubles are trying to deal with today's politics. So
hmm
I've
Yeah.
lived through these same politics in the early 70s, late 60s. I've seen the same thing, but it frightens me, that we're kind of headed in some of the directions. I don't know if it's inevitable. I'm getting my CCW just because I am my age and I have been accosted a couple of times in the past 3 years because I'm an old man. And so those are my biggest concerns are more about the quality of life right now for everybody, rather than or, what the bottom line of my businesses are. So and I think I've kind of transitioned through my spiritual understandings of who it is that I should be thankful for my life, and have a pretty good relationship there. So it is the things I worry about most and that keep me awake are what's right outside my door, and what's right outside the doors of the people that I care the most for. And then those that I just really, truly don't know and observe. The old woman who's pushing a shopping cart that's filled with everything she owns, holding on to a blanket, and at the same time, a cane that she can't use because she's trying to keep that blanket from falling on the ground, just walking in downtown Reno with no place to go. Those things are the most trying for me right now. My concerns about what you guys are going to be facing here in these coming years, especially with young families and futures you got a longer future than I do that you're going to have to deal with, so those are my toughest things. I'll tell you, business wise, I'm concerned about pricing and supply, where it's coming from, and the quality of it. There's very little integrity left anymore in agreements. It used to be that you could make a handshake agreement with somebody, and they would deliver 110% what they agreed to. And now it doesn't matter how many documents you sign and how much at risk somebody else might be. The sentiment, if they don't deliver, is sue me. And I don't know where that takes us at all. I'd like to see a little bit more humanity amongst us all than what's being delivered to us. I'm really concerned about outside influences bringing different ways of life to us that we weren't, that this country was not founded on, and how much advantage of folks are taking of our Constitution and literally our American way of life is really at risk right now. I went to the place that I go shooting at. It does CCW classes, and typically on a Saturday you'd walk in and there'd be 20 people. They had 60 people packed in with not enough seating. Everybody, husbands and wives and old enough children, all getting CCWs because the police show up 5 minutes after they could have possibly died. So those are the things I worry about.
Yeah, it brings the subject matter of like polarization. I think about it sometimes with, it seems to be the polarization in every respect, whether it's political ideology, whether it's even just like, the polarization of man's capability of keeping up with technology, for instance, at the rate that it expands, right? We're in this like, exponential divergence, all right, of two lines. And so I often wonder sometimes, is it going to be taking is it going to have to take hitting the reset button for there to be a convergence of those two lines, or is it going to be, something that would, is more gradual? And I don't see the catalyst for, creating a gradual convergence of those two lines, in respect to everything that were out there. And I talked to my wife; she's an educator, and she sees like it seems like, and she works with a lot of young people, young teachers. Actually, she coaches teachers, professional development, all that stuff with our local university. And she's like, "It's Matt. It seems like a race to the bottom."
Yep.
And how do we change? How do we change that? And the stoic in me says, all right, well, I either have to accept, ignore, or change, right? And I only have the ability to change what's directly within my control. So, leadership, that's the only thing I can do, is in terms of, leading by example. Vince Lombardi, leading by example is the only way to lead, with the hopes that, you put the ladder down for other people that share the same spirit. And hopefully those people will put the ladder down for other people But we got to go out there and find those people that we need to work with and put the ladder down for and build those relationships and, hopefully, have some, virality behind it.
Sure. Yeah. Great insights. Good. Excellent insights. One of my ex-wives taught me a thing about making 15-second friendships with people in the Walmart line, and in 15, 20 seconds before you get to the clerk that's going to check you out, you've made a close relationship with somebody that you could imagine being in touch with consistently, the rest of your life, and you never see them again. But if you just go make a friend every day, get a little bit more of that kind of sentiment out there, I think sometimes is all you can do. So rather than delve too much time on my dark thoughts, you've heard, not many people hear, but they are the ones that push me to go make that 15-second friendship. So
Yep. As I get older and wiser, I try to do the same. I feel like I was really introverted when I was younger, and I had to push myself to extrovert myself and to start making those 15-second friendships that then, ultimately the ones that flourished and the people that I am still close with all came from those 15-second interactions.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you show up a lot, actually. A lot of praise for the things that you're doing, a lot of insight. Gee, I appreciate all the help that you opened the door for me on AI. I don't know, several months ago. So, it's that kind of interaction that it doesn't have to have a payoff. It doesn't have to have a palm out. Cross my palm isn't part of sometimes the best interactions. So.
I'm trying a new AI strategy right now. I'm working out the kinks, like all of them. You got to fight with the thing for days. It seems like.
Yeah.
So I'm about 3 days into this new fight, and it'll probably take me until the new year. But as soon as I have it figured out, I'll share it with you.
Yeah, please do. Actually, I've learned that good, deep, thorough instructions will get you pretty close to what it is that you're after. So I've been doing a series of articles on LinkedIn that they're all written, AI written, but they have to match my thought process and my goals for the articles. So I'm almost writing instructions as long as the articles.
Right. Yeah. So this is what I'm trying to do right now. I'll just kind of give you a little sneak peek.
Yeah, give it to us.
I am trying to have the AI. So I'm using ChatGPT and every time I go in, I am inputting. My first prompt is, a document that I have saved to notes. And at the end of the document, so the beginning of the document is like, this is how you sound like Mark. Here's some others, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the document, I'm basically training it to be kind of like a CRM, but more like a life management more than even just a client management. And, so I've got it where it's going to ask me the day and then anything that I do with it. Right. So if I'm using it to help me with an email or a blog post or whatever, I'm talking about people, I'm talking about things, I'm talking about dates and places. It will take everything that I did in the chat session. It will condense it into stuff that it needs to put into this life management system. And then it will create an addendum that I add to that file. Right. So that file now, instead of just being the same file every single time I start a new chat, it is the file plus the addendum. And now the next time it'll have a new addendum. The next time it'll have a new addendum. And my hope is that I can eventually get to the point where I feed in the file and it says, hey, Mark, how are you? Don't forget to send your wife flowers. It's your wife's birthday coming up. Like all that kind of stupid stuff, but more tailored to me and how I function than anything else.
Yeah. Well, yeah, please share with me. I'm a sponge for that right now. So
this is so Mark, this is a slick trick that I've been working on lately, utilizing AI is, like Larry said, it almost takes you more work putting in the prompts and then what the actual product is. So what I've been doing is I've been going on, setting up a YouTube live, and it being just a private channel and me talking about a specific concept, right? And I can just make it as long form as I want. I can wander. I can just, do whatever, right? There's a plugin app with YouTube where you can actually get a full transcription of that entire thing, and then click a button where it automatically loads that transcript into ChatGPT,
Wow.
and then you can sort of like, insert, put yourself in the person's shoes you're trying to talk to, and then say, and then, just actually insert the drivers of that, like, let's say person, right? Okay, what's my voice of customer, and then put that in there, and then have it, condense it down into something that, because the thing is that, unfortunately, attention is a new currency. Trying to get people's attention, it's like herding cats. It's like, it's like trying to, herd ADD goldfish on espresso, right? So, that's definitely a tool that I've been using. I also have to research the other AI tools besides ChatGPT. I only have 3.5. I'm not sure what the additional benefit of 4.0 is. And then there's also the Google AI and all this other stuff. So, Mark, what is the value add to upgrading from 3.5 to 4?
I really don't know, but I just assume that when you're paying a company money, you're getting some features that you're not getting in the 3.5. I've definitely looked at the output of both, and the output of 4.0 is better, right? Not just the formatting, but also the material. So, once I realize that I'm getting better results out of 4.0, I don't even want to play with 3.5. I just want to use 4.0.
Mm-hmm.
They are putting some restrictions on it, though. So, like yesterday when I was fighting with this beast for like an hour, it said, hey, you got to go back to 3.5 until like 6 o'clock because you've used up all of your processing power on 4.0. And then it even asked me the same question. It said, hey, why do you want to use 4.0? Why can't you just do this in 3.5? And I was just like, well, the output is in 4 seems better. So that's why I'm trying to do it in 4. But AI is very difficult. I think it's a new frontier. There's going to be a lot of improvement. There's a lot that it can do that it should be able to do that it can't do yet well. So I think, the concept of it is great, and the application of what it's good at now is okay. Obviously, if I'm reading content online, I still kind of feel like Yona when it's like, if I blatantly know that it's AI generated dribble, I just ignore it. It's dribble, right? But I don't want to cut it out of my life where I'm not using it, but I don't want to turn people off by having them think that I'm just producing content with AI either. So, it's a new frontier, and I think we just all have to kind of embrace it and use it as a tool and see if we can make it better so it actually works the way it was intended to. But there's a lot of applications that it still doesn't work for. Like this thing that I'm trying to do, I think would be a good case for it. But it doesn't work well, and I don't think it will. I think I'll be fighting with it for a long time, and it still won't do exactly what it should be able to do.
Sure.
Absolutely. Well, gentlemen, that's the top of the hour.
Nice.
Well, thank you both. It's been a real pleasure. Put me on your calendar again here, and I'd love to keep up with both of you. I have a conversation to have with you, Matt, and I'm going to get with you, Mark, about where you're going with AI for sure. So thank you all. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah. Merry Christmas to everybody, and we will see you soon.
You bet.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Everyone.